Chapter 1684. The air currents from the explosion continued to revolve, intertwining with each other. At this instance, the densely packed soul bubbles above the eaves of the palace seemed to be attracted by something as they surged towards the main door. One by one, the bubbles rushed out of the palace, flying towards the sky. These souls had no life. The reverse barrier to these souls had no effect at all. Those bubbles, one by one, surged towards the sky, disappearing outside the barrier. Damn it! Stop! Stop! King of Darkness was enraged. The entire dark sacred region was in an uproar. What a pity! A voice that seemed to be filled with helplessness and pity rang out in a quiet and serene voice. There was a hint of a smile in her clear and sweet voice. Can't do as you wish, these souls can't stop. That voice continued. You're not dead. King of Darkness roared agitatedly, filled with disbelief. This was Yi Qing Luo's voice. How could she not be dead? Even though the current him wasn't at his peak. With his current power, killing Yi Qing Luo was not a problem at all. How could Yi Qing Luo still be alive under his attack, which had exhausted all his remaining energy? The dark sacred region's uproar gradually calmed down. The airflow that lingered around them also gradually subsided. That explosive air currents slowly dispersed, revealing a slender figure. The young lady's green and white academy uniform was fluttering, obviously without any adornment. But looking at it now, it seemed as though it was plated with a layer of lustrous velvet. Black hair danced along with the air currents. Her slender figure stood proudly. The flame around her made her seem so noble, making one unable to have any thoughts of blasphemy. Wasn't this Yi Qing Luo? She indeed didn't die. Not only did she not die. Furthermore, her entire person seemed to have a metamorphosis, as though she had been reborn. In the seal, King of Darkness's mental power had been fixed on Yi Qing Luo. This was not the metamorphosis of advancement. Yi Qing Luo's profound grade was still stable at sky-profound first-grade realm. That was. King of Darkness's mental power suddenly shook. Yi Qing Luo's divine phoenix profound jade heart, that smear of profound yin qi which was sealed with the dark incantation, was completely erased. How was this possible? How could Yi Qing Luo possibly eliminate that trace of profound yin qi? While the King of Darkness was in disbelief, he felt a backlash attack his mind power. The King of Darkness screamed in agony. Then, there was no sound. Little girl, in his divine sense, old man Tsang swallowed his saliva and opened his mouth in a daze. Yi Qing Luo's exquisite and beautiful face was filled with an eerie chill. Her enchanting eyes were fixated on the Saint Realm array formation on the altar. Her thin eyebrows slightly furrowed. What was going on? She could clearly feel the King of Darkness's gaze sizing her up. But in the next instant, suddenly, the connection between the eyes disappeared. Even the aura of the mysterious yin qi had disappeared. Could it be that the King of Darkness had exhausted all of his strength and his consciousness was sealed once more? Lass, what happened just now? How did you withstand the King of Darkness attack? Why wasn't I able to see what was happening outside just now? Filled with questions, old man Tsang was so anxious that he almost wanted to stomp his feet. Just now. Yi Qing Luo hesitated for a moment, as she shook her head in a daze. Everything that had just happened in that instant. Chapter 1685. The moment the profound yin qi condensed into a sphere, it exploded. She was preparing to use her teleportation. Even if she was seriously injured, she could at least preserve her life. But, she didn't have time to recite the incantation. Suddenly, a scorching hot feeling wrapped around her heart. Immediately, she felt that her body was being burned by a raging fire. She didn't even have the time to pay attention to what was happening. When she opened her eyes, she was already standing safely in the air. Then came the King of Darkness's hysterical roar, ringing in her ears. Scorching hot feeling. Old Man Tsang murmured softly. Yi Qing Luo heard the seriousness in his tone. You know the reason. Old Man Tsang was silent for a moment, deliberating for a while, then slowly opened his mouth. To you, this should be considered a good thing, but also a bad thing. Yi Qing Luo was stunned. You also know, this profound heart jade of yours is called the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade. Old Man Tsang let out a long sigh. I originally didn't want to tell you the secret of this profound heart jade so quickly, but man proposes, God disposes. You still know about the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade. Your current strength is unable to enter the upper realm. This profound heart jade of yours is unable to display its full potential. Yi Qing Luo herself was very clear on this point. Previously, she had asked Old Man Tsang, what were the profound grades above the sky mystic supremacy? Old Man Tsang only explained a little, then let her concentrate on cultivating, to reach the sky mystic stage first. It was because, with her current strength, even if she knew those things that exceeded her current strength, to her, it was of no use. She might as well not know anything. Then rely on her own hard work, to find out everything she wanted to know. In that critical moment just now, this Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade of yours saved you. Old Man Tsang sighed again. I activated the power of the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade. Yi Qing Luo was surprised, then. What did you mean when you said, it's a good thing, but also a bad thing? You can activate the power of the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade. It proves that your current realm has increased, your innate talent has also increased. This will be of great help to your future profound chi cultivation. This was obviously a great benefit. However, Old Man Tsang's tone was extremely solemn. However, with your current strength, you may be considered as one of the best in the Nirvana realm, but compared to the upper realm, you are just an ant that can be trampled upon. You've also heard from Pharaoh that the dark forces are not the only ones coveting your profound heart jade. Even the people of the God realm are coveting the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade. If the news that the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade is in the Nirvana realm spreads to the upper realm, I'm afraid you'll be in danger. Yi Qing Luo slowly lowered her eyelids. Her slender hand pressed against her heart. The profound heart jade emitted a gentle profound energy, warming the center of her palm. Why did the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade choose me? She murmured softly. She had countless questions in her mind. The azure dew bracelet was her family's heirloom. This other world also had an azure water divine artifact. Not only that, but her profound heart jade was the key and radar to find the azure water divine artifact. The vast water divine artifact also had an inexplicable connection with her. All of these questions superimposed on each other. It made Yi Qing Luo's heart skip a beat, then immediately beat violently. He heard the sound of her complicated feelings. Old Man Tsang was silent for a long time. Chapter 1686. Do you want to know? Old Man Tsang's voice reverberated in her mind. Yi Qing Luo's eyes flickered slightly. This hesitation only lasted for a few short breaths. The luster in her eyes had already regained its calmness. Don't want to. She didn't use her consciousness to say these two words. She moved her mouth and spat out these two words clearly. She understood Old Man Tsang's concerns. Before she had the ability to contend with the people from the upper realm. Even if she knew, it would be of no use to her. On the contrary, it would affect her state of mind. It would affect the progress of her cultivation. She wanted to know those things. When she had enough ability, she would investigate everything clearly one by one. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's reply, the old man in the azure dew bracelet slowly heaved a sigh of relief. That wrinkled face was filled with gratification. This lass. She was too sensible. It was no wonder that she was chosen by the azure dew bracelet. But lass, this time you sent so many soul bubbles to the soul control center, it will definitely attract the attention of the upper realm. If the people from the upper realm pursue it to the lower realm. Old man Song's tone revealed some worries. Yiqing Luo's lips curled as she looked outside the palace door, at the dark and treacherous atmosphere. Old man Song, with you around, I believe that hiding the presence of the divine phoenix profound heart jade and azure dew bracelet is not a problem. Old man Song remained silent for a while. Lass, you're really meticulous, nothing can escape your eyes. The dark forces had racked their brains to search for a complete set of azure dew divine weapon. The azure dew divine weapon was just a divine weapon made from the leftover dregs of the azure dew bracelet. But the dark forces were so obsessed with the azure dew divine weapon. What more the azure dew bracelet? In the azure dew bracelet, there was not only the dragon god cauldron, the purgatory pagoda, there were all kinds of heaven-defying secret technique rewards. And old man Song kept reminding her not to use the secret technique rewards from the purgatory pagoda in front of others. This further indicated the mystery of the azure dew bracelet. The azure dew bracelet should be an even more heaven-defying existence than her divine phoenix profound heart jade. But, all along, other than Dmo Xian, no one had discovered the existence of the azure dew bracelet. Even the king of darkness couldn't sense the azure dew bracelet. It could be seen that the aura of the azure dew bracelet was definitely concealed by old man Song using a special method. This profound heart jade of hers should also be. For the past 15 years. She had always been called trash. He had a powerful profound jade heart, but he was trash that couldn't cultivate. All of this was to hide that her profound heart jade was the divine phoenix profound heart jade. If he had shown great talent since he was young, he became the first unparalleled genius in the nirvana realm. The secret of her profound heart jade might not be able to be kept for long. Especially since she was the young lord of the Three Springs sect, one of the 4 major sections. This identity was already eye-catching enough. Not to mention, under the circumstances of this identity, he was also extremely talented in cultivation. She had completely exposed the fact that the divine phoenix profound heart jade was in her possession. However, what made Yiqing Luo curious was, in the past 15 years, who was it that had turned her into a wastrel who was unable to cultivate? Who was it that wanted to help her hide the whereabouts of the divine phoenix profound heart jade? Looking at the entire Three Springs sect, Yiqing Luo couldn't think of anyone who would do such a thing. Just as Yiqing Luo was deep in thought, a slender figure suddenly appeared from somewhere in the shadows. Chapter 1687. The cold profound yin qi corroded Yiqing Luo's entire body. Lass, be careful behind you. Old man Song's anxious voice suddenly rang. Almost instinctively, Yiqing Luo's feet moved. Her agile footwork made her figure like an afterimage. But a moment later, she had already moved to the other side. Bam! An explosion sound was heard. The ground where Yiqing Luo was standing earlier suddenly exploded into a huge deep pit. The surrounding profound yin qi set off gusts of wild wind. Yiqing Luo's slender brows were tightly knitted as she looked vigilantly at the direction where the qi came from and shouted in a deep voice, "Who's there?" There was actually someone else here. She actually didn't sense it at all. This was the dark sacred region and only people of the level of the Holy Law and the Pharaoh could enter this place. Could it be? Someone had sensed that something had happened in the dark sacred region and rushed over. The profound yin qi which shrouded the area gradually faded. Yiqing Luo could clearly see that under the profound yin qi was a tall and slender man. The man had a head of silver hair and was dressed in a black robe. His exquisite face exuded a sinister and cold aura. Traces of black yin qi were like flowing black electric currents as it wrapped around his entire body. His body was emitting a biting cold evil qi. She only met his gaze for a moment. Yiqing Luo instantly felt an extremely strong cold current rushing from her feet straight up to her head. That was a kind of bone-piercing cold. This man was very dangerous. Compared to those holy law and pharaoh whom she had met, he was several hundred times more dangerous. This man. Who was he? Damn vessel, how dare you destroy this king's blood soul curse? This king wants to devour you. That evil and cold man's eyes were filled with a dense profound yin qi. The minute he opened his mouth, Yiqing Luo's expression could no longer maintain her original composure. What did he say? This king. He is King of Darkness. No. Impossible. The King of Darkness was sealed in the sacred region's array. How could he possibly reveal his physical body? The man's lips twitched sinisterly as the profound yin qi clouded his expression. But Yiqing Luo knew that he was sneering. He was ridiculing her fear towards him. He was also laughing at her overconfident vigilance. This thought made Yiqing Luo's heart surge with thick anger and unwillingness. Little girl, don't let his mysterious yin qi affect your mind. Looking at Yiqing Luo's expression, which surfaced some anger, old man Song hurriedly opened his mouth and called out to Yiqing Luo. Although the wisp of profound yin qi sealed within your profound jade heart was already automatically purified when I was protecting you just now, it's still not enough. However, don't underestimate the power of this mysterious yin qi. The profound yin qi of the dark forces was obviously different from the one he had sensed in the Nirvana realm. In Nirvana realm, especially those cultivators who had made a soul exchange, making use of profound yin qi to deal with Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo could easily dispel those profound yin qi and wasn't affected by it at all. But in the dark forces, the mystical yin qi was the purest. Especially, the black yin qi on the man in front of him was even stronger than the black yin qi he had sensed from the wolf Saint Law. No matter how firm Yiqing Luo's willpower was, their minds were affected by the dense mysterious yin qi. Chapter 1688. Old man Song remained silent and didn't give a reply. He had no way to differentiate whether the man in front of him was the King of Darkness or not. He had the same question as Yiqing Luo. From the man's voice and words, as well as the sharp aura that was released from his body, this indeed looked like the King of Darkness. But the King of Darkness was sealed in the sacred region's array. The source of his power, the source of his consciousness, those blood pool souls, had all been released by Yiqing Luo. The King of Darkness' remaining power would be stripped away. Not to mention the removal of the seal. Most importantly, Old Man Song was the clearest about the King of Darkness' power. If the man in front of him was the King of Darkness, there was no way that Yiqing Luo could evade that attack of his earlier. Very strange, very surprised. Looking at Yiqing Luo's vigilant and fearful expression, the man smiled evilly. He squinted his eyes. The profound yin qi in his eyes lingered in his eyes. Too bad, you can only be surprised in hell. The soaring profound yin qi continued to be released. That ruthless gaze was incomparably terrifying. Yiqing Luo's reaction was extremely fast. The glower flame fan suddenly opened up and a bewitching red glow cut through the layers of profound yin qi. As though in the air, streams of air waves were produced. Two bursts of energy collided in midair. The dense energy suddenly enveloped the entire dark sacred region's palace. The blood in the blood pool also splattered out in this intense hurricane. The ground was stained with a large patch of blood. The man's lips curled up sinisterly as the profound yin qi in his eyes grew thicker. Struggle on your deathbed. This king shall satisfy you. His words had just ended when he waved his sleeves. Following the encirclement of the profound yin qi, a palm wind mixed with the dense profound yin qi struck towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Yi Qing Luo's expression changed. Such a strong aura. Such dense profound yin qi. This man was indeed ruthless. Each strike was fatal. Those two irresistible forces were colliding with each other. Suddenly, the profound yin qi's palm wind covered the sky and earth as it pressured downwards. The glower flame fan's red glow was instantly covered by the profound yin qi. Immediately following that, it surged towards Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's eyes widened as the profound qi within her body continued to expand. She gripped the devouring flame fan tightly, her profound qi swirling around the devouring flame fan, emitting an extremely dazzling red light. Then, she flipped her wrist. The gourd flame fan raised two red flying dragons. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws to fight against the mysterious yin qi. At the same time, Yi Qing Luo's figure suddenly made a turn. Boom boom boom. Bang. Kacha. With a few loud noises. The two huge red dragons were mercilessly devoured by the dense mysterious yin qi. Chapter 1689. The man in front of her was cold and dignified. A pair of eyes that were filled with profound yin qi revealed an evil smile. Yes, this king is the king of darkness, the king who rules over all living things. His smile was obviously filled with joy. But a sinister aura seeped out from his bones. Vessel, you have no way to resist, obediently be devoured by this king. The king of darkness's eyes suddenly turned cold as his murderous intent was revealed. Yi Qing Luo took half a step back as her heart tightened. Obediently obey. These words didn't exist in her dictionary. To make her obey the king of darkness, to become his food. She only wanted to be afraid of the king of darkness, dream on. Suddenly, Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed as she pretended to laugh indifferently. You who have been sealed, even if you awaken, it will only be for a short period of time. Do you think I will be afraid of you? Devouring you is enough. The king of darkness's gloomy eyes were filled with murderous intent. When his words fell, his face instantly turned steely green. Apparently, he realized that he had been tricked by Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo closed the glower flame fan and placed it on her pink lips as she laughed lightly. Indeed, after being sealed for 10,000 years, your brain has not been used for so long that it has become rusty. The contempt and ridicule in her eyes was obvious. As long as she was sure that the king of darkness's physical body was not because of the removal of the seal, she could rest assured. Moreover, she could confirm that the king of darkness's physical body had a time limit. As long as she could hang on for this period of time, she would exhaust all of the king of darkness's energy. The king of darkness would definitely fall into a deep slumber because of the sacred region seal. I know. Suddenly, old man Tsang's voice rang in her mind. I know the reason why the king of darkness's physical body appeared. Yi Qing Luo stared at the king of darkness alertly, in case he suddenly made a move. She was distracted as she listened to old man Tsang's words. The king of darkness wants to remove the sacred region seal and descend once again to fulfill his ambition from 10,000 years ago. In order to break the seal, he has already spent a great deal of effort. Recently, the dark forces have been making a lot of movements. Moreover, they are taking the risk of being discovered by the various factions in the Nirvana realm to set up a soul assimilation array in the flame lair to plunder the souls of the students of the various academies. It can be seen that the king of darkness has already reached the final stage of breaking the seal. Perhaps, in the next few years, the seal of the sanctuary will be completely undone. Hearing old man Tsang's analysis, Yi Qing Luo nodded her head solemnly. That was her guess as well. When the dark forces took action, Yi Qing Luo had this feeling. But, girl, you destroyed the soul assimilating array. Old man Tsung's voice was filled with deep worry. He even let go of the blood-soul curse that he had gathered for at least 100 years. He completely destroyed all of his opportunities to break the seal. He also wasted 10,000 years of hard work in one day. The King of Darkness was a very ambitious person. His ambition led to him being suppressed by the people of the upper realm and sealed in the dark holy region 10,000 years ago. However, a seal might not be able to seal a person's ambition. The King of Darkness's ambition was still stirring. After spending 10,000 years, he tried all ways and means to break the sacred region's seal. Just a few more steps. But it was completely destroyed by Yi Qing Luo. Under the rage of the King of Darkness, his mental energy broke through the seal and revealed his physical body, intending to skin the person who destroyed his hard work alive. The soul assimilating array was destroyed. He could use Yi Qing Luo's divine phoenix profound heart jade to replace it. But the blood-soul curse's blood pool was destroyed. Lass, if it's true, just use teleportation and the thunderclap incantation. As long as you can last until the King of Darkness awakens, he will be sealed again. If he wants to regain consciousness, I'm afraid it will take a few hundred years. That was to say, as long as she was confident that she could use these two secret techniques to evade the King of Darkness, she would be able to do so. The King of Darkness was sealed once more. She didn't have to worry about the King of Darkness knowing that she had the Azure Dew bracelet. A few hundred years later. Not to mention whether or not she was still alive. Even if she really was alive, at that time, she would already have enough power to protect the Azure Dew bracelet. However, unless it was a last resort, Yi Qing Luo still didn't want to use these two azure water secret arts. Give up resisting, give up struggling. Then. Now, obediently let this king devour you. Chapter 1691. After King of Darkness finished his words, he charged towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. His speed was extremely fast. Just moments later, he was already close to Yi Qing Luo's face. As compared to the burst of qi which he released earlier, it was even faster. Yi Qing Luo felt her face turning slightly cold. A cold and gloomy intent seemed to freeze her face. When the King of Darkness got close, Lin Fan's eyes widened. He suddenly raised his palm and dispersed the wave of qi that he had released with a single palm strike. That powerful aura spread across the sky of the dark sacred region. A palace was in a state of turbulence. Yi Qing Luo's heart trembled slightly as her charming eyes stared at that evil cold face which was just inches away from her. This King of Darkness. What on earth was he trying to do? That terrifying and overbearing qi wave was from him attacking her, trying to devour her. Why did she disperse the qi wave on her own? Yi Qing Luo didn't feel that King of Darkness suddenly had a conscience and didn't want to kill her anymore. As though he saw the vigilance and suspicion in Yi Qing Luo's eyes. King of Darkness's lips curled upwards as he revealed a smile. You're right, I suddenly don't want you to. His voice paused. Following that exquisite face was filled with a cold murderous aura. He laughed coldly, treacherous and cold. Die so quickly. The last sentence was extremely cold. Yi Qing Luo was unable to control the fear and agitation in her heart. Her petite body shrunk slightly as her eyes flashed with a complicated glow. The way to devour you is not only to kill you. King of Darkness looked at Yi Qing Luo's face which was gradually turning green in satisfaction. His smile turned even colder. Yi Qing Luo had a bad premonition. As expected, King of Darkness's fingers suddenly grabbed Yi Qing Luo's lower jaw. That ice-cold touch was like ice. Look carefully, this face of yours does suit this king's taste. King of Darkness's eyes were filled with a lustful expression. This face was indeed a stunner. Furthermore, killing this vessel wasn't enough to vent the anger in his heart. He wanted to destroy this vessel. Let this vessel taste despair. King of Darkness's eyes were filled with profound qi, and the vicious look in his eyes matched the lustful expression. Yiqing Luo's pupils suddenly widened. A look of surprise flashed across her eyes. That evil and cold face that was just inches away from him, if he moved a little closer, their lips would touch. His breath hit the skin of her face. Cold, it was like the cold air of an ice house. It was bone-chilling, unbearably cold. Most importantly, Yiqing Luo was extremely disgusted by his presence. The meaning behind the King of Darkness's words and the intense gaze in his eyes made her feel nauseous. She had never expected this. The King of Darkness actually used such a method to disgust her. Perhaps it was the disgust in Yiqing Luo's eyes that made the interest in the King of Darkness's eyes, and that colorful gaze became even more intense. His wrist suddenly slid down. He directly locked onto Yiqing Luo's waist, pressing Yiqing Luo's soft body onto his sturdy chest. Even though they were separated by clothes, Yiqing Luo could clearly feel the increasingly cold chill piercing into her skin. "What are you trying to do?" Yiqing Luo's eyes turned cold as she flicked her wrist and attacked the King of Darkness. He actually used such a method. Was he trying to humiliate her? She had to admit that this move by the King of Darkness was indeed the move that stirred up her emotions. If the King of Darkness was fighting against her, even if she wasn't able to defeat the King of Darkness, she would give it her all. But Chapter 1692. King of Darkness's gaze was filled with an indescribable lust. This king has been sealed for 10,000 years and has never touched a woman. It just so happens that you are going to die by this king's hands. Why don't you let this king teach you the greatest joy of being a woman before you die? He abruptly tightened the grip on his arm. Yiqing Luo's body had no way to struggle free. Her entire body fell onto King of Darkness's body. The next moment, King of Darkness's hand slid onto Yiqing Luo's body. He actually started to tug on Yiqing Luo's belt. Yiqing Luo's face turned pale as she flipped her palm and swiftly stopped King of Darkness's actions. Following that, she quickly released her profound qi. Twin dragons emerged from the sea. Yiqing Luo cried out as she gripped her glower flame fan tightly and released the profound skill of the glower flame fan. Two flying fire dragons soared into the sky. Tyrannical profound qi undulated as the two flying fire dragons circled around. King of Darkness's heart was filled with lust. He had never expected that Yiqing Luo still had the ability to resist at this moment. Instantly, she was engulfed by the two fire dragons. Yiqing Luo's body, with the help of the flying fire dragons, swiftly escaped from King of Darkness's embrace. She took a few steps back. Her fingers swiftly fastened the belt on her body. Her pair of clear and charming eyes were already tainted with a thin layer of coldness. At the same time, King of Darkness reacted at the instant when he was engulfed by the fire dragons. But he waved his sleeves lightly. The vast profound qi dissipated the two fire dragons which were entangled in the sky. King of Darkness's gaze followed Yiqing Luo's direction. There was no longer any lust in his eyes. Instead, it was a cold and sinister sneer. "Looks like this king has found your weakness." He laughed softly as his evil face was filled with a chilly intent. He licked his dry lips, and the possessive desire in his eyes made him look even more treacherous. "This king happens to fall for this trick of yours." "Really?" Yiqing Luo's brows rose as her icy cold eyes curved upwards. She tightened her grip on the glowing flame fan and scoffed, "Unfortunately, I find you disgusting." The King of Darkness's eyes darkened, and her exquisite face was covered by a layer of black qi. He sneered as his entire body abruptly charged downwards and a burst of strong qi once again neared Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo shifted her feet. A devilish mystic light spread out from his fingertips. she would never make the same mistake again. She would never give the King of Darkness the chance to do so. A flowing red light flashed in his eyes. The profound energy released from her entire body gradually rose. In just a moment, a transparent protective shield had formed around her body. Just as the terrifying glint which carried the profound yin qi neared Yiqing Luo. Boom! Yiqing Luo's defensive shield exploded with a loud bang. Coincidentally, the King of Darkness's figure was right next to Yiqing Luo. His face was blasted by the explosion of the protective shield. At the same time, Yiqing Luo had already executed her footwork and swiftly moved out of the explosion radius. Yiqing Luo's profound energy was not able to cause much harm to the King of Darkness. Even if the King of Darkness was blasted away, at most, it would only cause some superficial injuries to the King of Darkness. For example now, after the thousands of strands of demonic red light dissipated, the King of Darkness's elegant black hair had been blown into curls. His black robe had several holes in it. Chapter 1693. King of Darkness was also stunned by the explosion. He stood there in a daze as he lowered his head to look at his burnt clothes. The expression on the man's face kept changing. After some time, King of Darkness's hands trembled as he touched his curly black hair. His eyes were filled with a storm. Damned vessel! You actually dared to scheme against me. A hoarse growl came out from King of Darkness's mouth. The current him didn't have any feelings for Yiqing Luo at all. He only wanted to kill Yiqing Luo. Kill Yiqing Luo, ah ah ah. Hearing King of Darkness's raging voice, Yiqing Luo heaved a sigh of relief. Being stared at by those disgusting things that were neither human nor ghost, she only felt disgusted. Even though he only used that gaze to look at her, she felt extremely disgusted. Not to mention the fact that she was being groped by him, wanting to grope her body. If it wasn't for the fact that she knew that King of Darkness's current body wasn't his original body, she definitely wanted to poison him. To poison this disgusting species who coveted her beauty. To make him unable to have sex. Blowing him into curly hair was already considered as her mercy. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed with a cold glint as she snorted, "Do you think I am someone you can touch? I'm telling you, if you dare to touch me once, I will blow you up once. Why don't you try and see if you can kill me first, or if I can blow up all the hair on your body into big curly hairs?" Good. Good job. King of Darkness's furious eyes swept past Yiqing Luo. A profound yin qi whirlpool instantly shot out from his body. That whirlpool swiftly twisted and turned, as though it was going to swallow the heaven and earth. That horrifying qi condensed into a whirlpool. It showed the fury in King of Darkness's heart. Yiqing Luo's expression congealed. That power was simply too strong. It was so strong that she felt a chill down her spine. In the end, it was because her ability wasn't strong enough. She thought that she had advanced to the sky profound stage. She had enough ability to protect those brothers whom she cared about. But in the end, she still let her own brothers take the risk. Or, in front of the stronger King of Darkness, she felt fear. If she was strong enough, he wouldn't be in such a passive position. Yiqing Luo's eyes overflowed with a complicated glint. Her slender fingers curled up one by one. Her entire body was tense, and her expression was solemn as she stared at the King of Darkness. In his mind, he constantly analyzed the current situation of the battle, and in his mind, he had already constructed many ways to escape unscathed. "I say, lass, using your beauty to stall for time just now was the best way to do it, and it wouldn't draw blood. Why didn't you grasp the opportunity?" Old man Tsang sighed helplessly when he saw her tense and worried expression. Chapter 1694. Vessel, since you insist on choosing a painful path to death, then I will definitely satisfy you. King of Darkness laughed sinisterly. Just as he finished his words, the whirlpool around him started to spin rapidly. Yi-Ching Luo felt her chest tightening. Her body was pushed into mid-air by something. Following that, her body flew backwards. He smashed into the wall beside him. She gave a dull moan as her body fell onto the ground. Blood flowed out from the corner of her lips. Her brows were tightly knitted as she panted in pain. She felt as if her 5 viscera and 6 bowels had been shattered. What kind of horrifying power was that? Yi-Ching Luo was still lying on the ground. She couldn't understand what King of Darkness had done to actually send her flying in such a short period of time. She thought that with the group of old men in her past life, learning various Yi family's footwork, her speed in the Nirvana realm was absolutely heaven-defying. But she couldn't see through King of Darkness's speed at all. How strong was he exactly? Looking at Yi-Ching Luo lying on the ground. Her green and white uniform was stained with fresh blood. She didn't know if this fresh blood was from the expanding blood pool or Yi-Ching Luo's blood. King of Darkness's malicious eyes were extremely cold and sinister. He looked at Yi-Ching Luo coldly as his lips curled up in ridicule. That's it. This king hasn't warmed up enough, don't you die now. He took a step forward and walked to Yi-Ching Luo's side as he looked down at her from above. Seeing that she had no resistance at all, gritting her teeth silently, King of Darkness laughed delightfully. Don't die too early before this king has enjoyed himself to his heart's content. Saying that, he flipped his sleeves again. A burst of dense, profound energy continued to increase in strength. Yi-Ching Luo only felt her body being squeezed by a burst of energy as she was forcefully pushed down onto the ground. She heard a "kacha" sound. The ground beneath him had already been shattered by this powerful force. Yi-Ching Luo could clearly hear the sound of her bones breaking. He was really ruthless. What a terrifying force. Yi-Ching Luo endured the intense pain. She didn't make a single sound. Her pair of charming eyes exuded an extremely piercingly cold chill. That's right. It's this gaze. It's this gaze that makes this king feel your despair and hatred. The King of Darkness sneered. His eyes, which were filled with hostility, were filled with a joyful smile. 2 consecutive attacks. Yi-Ching Luo didn't even have the chance to react. His body had already suffered serious internal injuries. The King of Darkness didn't want to play her to death. His attacks were extremely heavy, aiming for the vitals without any mercy. However, he managed to avoid taking her vital parts. Did he want to see her lying on the ground in despair, unable to move, waiting for death? Did he want her to taste the taste of despair? Every time Yi-Ching Luo breathed, she felt an extreme pain coming from within her body. She held back and slowed her breathing. Girl, you have no way of contending against his strength, but your speed is definitely above his. Old Man Tsang's voice suddenly entered her mind. Speed? She couldn't even move now. How could they compete with him in speed? Furthermore, she couldn't see through the King of Darkness' attack trajectory. Apparently, the King of Darkness's speed was above hers. Old Man Tsang hesitated for a moment before spitting out 2 words, blink. Blink? Yi-Ching Luo clutched her wound as she pursed her pink lips. Blink could indeed surpass the King of Darkness's speed. But, she didn't want to expose the Azure Dew bracelet. Chapter 1695. Lass, I believe in your ability. Old Man Tsang could feel the worry in Yi-Ching Luo's heart as he laughed lightly. His tone was filled with trust. Yi-Ching Luo's pink lips pursed even tighter. Old Man Tsang's relaxed and trusting tone. It made her heart ache even more. She knew that Old Man Tsang was pretending to be relaxed in order for her to give it her all. Her slender fingers curled up tightly. Her fingertips had turned white from being clenched so tightly. Her enchanting eyes were fixated on the King of Darkness. "Vessel, how does it feel to wait for death in despair?" King of Darkness's lips curled slightly as his eyes turned cold, like a wild beast eyeing its prey. He licked his lips greedily, as though he was toying with his prey in the palm of his hand, which made him extremely satisfied. Yi Qing Luo's breathing calmed down. Quietly staring at his figure. Tightly, she shut her eyes. She didn't reply. Didn't reveal any fearful expression. There wasn't any hatred in her eyes. This caused the perverted feeling in the King of Darkness's heart to dissipate. His eyes turned cold as he congealed his profound yin qi once again as he attacked Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo clenched her fists tightly. Suddenly, her fingertips moved. The glower flame fan shot out a few strong air currents. In a split second, her eyes were filled with a demonic red glow. It went straight into King of Darkness's eyes. At the same time, Yi Qing Luo silently recited the blink movement's secret method. Her figure swayed. In a blink of an eye, she had already moved to the open palace door. She held on to the palace door to maintain her balance. Before King of Darkness could react, she swiftly stretched out her hand and hit a few acupoints on her body. Following that, she took out some pills from the profound phoenix ring and swallowed them. In just a few breaths, Yi Qing Luo had no way to do any simple treatment on herself. King of Darkness had already sensed the change in her aura. "You." King of Darkness turned his head and followed the aura towards the palace door. His evil cold eyes stared at Yi Qing Luo in astonishment. As though he couldn't believe it. Yi Qing Luo actually had the ability to avoid his attack. After swallowing the pills, Yi Qing Luo's pain was suppressed and her stamina gradually recovered. She held on to the palace gate and slowly straightened her body. "That's not bad. Struggling before death makes me excited." King of Darkness couldn't be bothered to find out how Yi Qing Luo managed to escape from his attack. In his eyes, no matter how Yi Qing Luo tried to escape, they would all die in his hands. He sneered and his figure flickered. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she sensed the fluctuation in the air, the feeling of flowing over. She furrowed her brows and reacted quickly. Using her footwork, she immediately headed out of the palace. "You think that I can't leave the dark sanctuary?" The King of Darkness laughed sinisterly when he saw Yi Qing Luo's actions. Yi Qing Luo was shocked. Just as he stepped out of the palace gate, the King of Darkness appeared in front of her. His feet happened to be standing right outside the palace gate. That straight and slender figure, that black robe full of holes, fluttering in the wind. Yi Qing Luo's footsteps halted as she swiftly retreated. She thought that even though the King of Darkness had revealed his true body in a fit of rage, the King of Darkness still had a way to deal with him. But in the end, he was still sealed by the saint-level seal. By right, his true body should not be able to leave the dark sanctuary. But right now, the King of Darkness was still able to stand at the entrance of the dark sanctuary's palace. He could leave the dark sanctuary's palace. And even if she dashed out of the palace gate, she was unable to break through that reverse enchantment. Looking at the astonishment in Yi Qing Luo's eyes, King of Darkness gave a low laugh. Stretching out his hand, he suddenly clasped Yi Qing Luo's neck. Chapter 1696. The tightness on her neck made Yi Qing Luo's face flushed red. King of Darkness squinted his eyes as he gave a sinister mocking laugh. "Little lass, you are indeed a talent. No wonder you can disrupt my plans time and time again. No wonder she was the vessel of the divine phoenix profound jade. At such a young age, her willpower was so strong. She was even able to evade several strikes under his relentless attacks. Such innate talent. If she couldn't be used by him, he had to destroy her before she grew up. Otherwise, she would be a hidden danger in the future. Yiqing Luo's face turned pale. Her sharp fingers dug deep into the flesh of the King of Darkness. Her eyes were still cold and her aura was fully unleashed. She didn't look like she was being controlled by someone. Her voice was hoarse as she spoke with difficulty. Not only will I destroy your plans, I can also destroy you. King of Darkness's dark and deep eyes flashed. Following that, he burst out into a cold laugh. Then let me see what other abilities you have. In King of Darkness's eyes, Yiqing Luo was a piece of meat on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. His eyes turned cold as he suddenly stretched out his other hand and dug towards Yiqing Luo's heart. Before I devour you, this piece of divine phoenix profound jade must not be wasted. His sinister voice was filled with coldness and ridicule. Just as his hand was about to reach Yiqing Luo's chest, all of a sudden, a bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. The ball of light landed on the arm of the King of Darkness. King of Darkness screamed miserably. The hand which was on Yiqing Luo's neck was numbed by the lightning as it relaxed. Yiqing Luo's body fell limply onto the ground. She recited the incantation and her figure flashed. She immediately teleported away from King of Darkness's attack range. The lightning ball revolved around the arm of the King of Darkness, emitting sparks of electricity. The stinging pain from the electric shock and the numbness all over his body made his astonished expression look extremely comical. Thunderclap incantation. You know the thunderclap incantation. King of Darkness's voice was filled with disbelief. He looked at Yiqing Luo who was standing 10 meters away and his eyes were filled with madness. There's still teleportation. How could anyone in the Nirvana realm use the secret arts of the immortal realm? He forcefully endured the electric current in his arm, his eyes filled with a thick malevolence. Who are you? Who the hell are you? The King of Darkness asked in a frenzy. A pair of eyes, flushed red. Yiqing Luo's sharp senses detected a trace of extreme fear in his frenzied questioning. That's right. It was fear. The King of Darkness was afraid of the thunderclap art and teleportation. Just now he said, is this a secret technique of the divine world? Divine realm. The divine realm of the highest plane in the upper realm. The King of Darkness was not the only one in disbelief. She was also stunned. Good. How did the reward of the Purgatory Pagoda become the reward of the divine world? No wonder. Old Man Tsang had always warned her not to casually use it. No, it's impossible for you to be her. Suddenly, the crazed King of Darkness started to laugh coldly. That crazy look on his face. He looked like a madman. He lowered his head and looked at his arm, which was still flowing with electricity. Suddenly, he clenched his fists tightly. A burst of profound yin qi instantly dispersed the layer of electricity. You are indeed not her. If it's her, her thunderclap art can shatter this king's physical body. Ha ha ha. Seeing the electricity dispersed, King of Darkness's eyes revealed an ecstatic expression. Chapter 1697. Hearing King of Darkness's words, Yiqing Luo's heart slowly calmed down. Luckily, King of Darkness's attention was only focused on the secret manual. He didn't think about the Azure Dew bracelet. But who was the she that King of Darkness was referring to? The thunder crash arts which King of Darkness was afraid of, was executed by that she. That person, a single thunder crash arts could shatter King of Darkness's physical body. How powerful was that person? But it was because of the existence of that she. Now, she could unleash her blink movement and thunder crash arts. Think that you can go against me just by relying on the thunder crash arts? He. King of Darkness saw Yiqing Luo's burning battle intent and snorted in disdain. When he first saw Yiqing Luo executing the thunder crash arts, his heart had indeed felt terrified. One must know that 10,000 years ago, the person who sealed him in the dark sacred region used this thunder crash arts to shatter his physical body. But this vessel was not able to unleash a tenth of the thunder crash arts power. To him, it was not a threat at all. On account of the thunder crash arts, I will not let you die so easily. King of Darkness squinted his eyes as he charged forward with a dense profound yin qi. His voice paused as his smile turned sinister and demonic. I want to extract your soul. Devouring your soul, I will be able to inherit everything you know. Including thunder crash arts. King of Darkness's eyes were filled with excitement. Apparently, he was extremely interested in the thunder crash arts which shattered his physical body 10,000 years ago. Yiqing Luo looked at him coldly as she sneered, then you have to have the chance to chase up to me first. The moment her words ended, Yiqing Luo's body suddenly moved. This time, coupled with the speed of the blink movement's secret technique. King of Darkness was totally unable to see through Yiqing Luo's movements. On the contrary, when the blink movement was raised to the maximum, Yiqing Luo was able to see all of King of Darkness's attacks. When King of Darkness's attack was about to hit her, Yiqing Luo speedily executed her blink movement. Then, a thunderclap incantation appeared on his fingertips. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. A thunderbolt that was even more violent than the lightning ball just now struck down from the sky. Coincidentally, it landed on the King of Darkness. That head of black hair which was originally plotted by Yiqing Luo and exploded into curly hair. This time, it was struck by the lightning even more messy and chaotic. You! The King of Darkness glared at her and cursed in her heart. She turned around and unleashed an even more ferocious attack. However, this time round, the King of Darkness wanted to use his ability to suppress Yiqing Luo and use his speed to restrain her. But he was no match for Yiqing Luo's teleportation. Chapter 1698. Yiqing Luo continued to use the combination of the Glower Flame Fan and the Thunder Crash Manual to attack the King of Darkness. Teleportation became more and more agile under her control. The King of Darkness had no way of tracking her. In just a short while, the situation between the two of them gradually reversed. More and more wounds appeared on the King of Darkness' body. He didn't know if it was because he was angry or because the time limit was almost up. The King of Darkness's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at Yiqing Luo with hatred. His gloomy gaze swept up the storm. The mysterious yin qi spread around his body, forming a huge vortex. In an instant, all the power suddenly burst out. Yiqing Luo's expression congealed. That terrifying and powerful energy made Yiqing Luo feel pressured. Her strength was far inferior to the King of Darkness. If the King of Darkness insisted on fighting her head-on, she had no chance of winning. She would never allow the King of Darkness to get close to her. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed. He quickly widened the distance between them. The King of Darkness stood rooted to the ground. The mysterious yin qi circled around his body and turned into a huge vortex. The vortex towered high, engulfing heaven and earth as if it wanted to break through the darkness domain. That powerful force was unstoppable. Yiqing Luo was shocked. She narrowed her eyes and unleashed her profound energy. Red light surged out from her body and slashed towards the King of Darkness. However, after her attack came into contact with the swirling vortex, it was as if she was about to explode. He was instantly devoured by the vortex and vanished. There wasn't even a flickering streak of light. Yiqing Luo's expression changed. He could feel that the dark force around the King of Darkness was still increasing. The vortex that was formed by the dense mysterious yin qi was also expanding continuously. Yiqing Luo's heart surged with an ominous premonition. What was the King of Darkness trying to do? What does he want to do? Oh no! Little girl, he wants to forcefully absorb your soul. Old man Tsang, who was hidden within the azure dew bracelet, sensed this powerful energy and immediately reacted, urgently calling out a warning. Yi Qing Luo was shocked. He could still move forward and absorb her soul. Was there a need to be so heaven-defying? He shouldn't know the soul assimilating array, right? The soul assimilating array takes too long. How can he set it up by himself? Old man Tsang snorted. The dark spells that the pharaohs know were all taught by the King of Darkness. What do you think? Yi Qing Luo remained silent. As it turned out, the King of Darkness was the ancestor of all dark curses. The soul assimilating array is an array that will only be used when absorbing a large number of souls. Old man Tsang continued to explain, what he wants to absorb is your soul alone. A soul assimilating spell is enough. Soul absorbing spell. Yi Qing Luo knitted her brows tightly. How do we stop it? When the King of Darkness was casting the curse, her attacks weren't able to affect him at all. Disrupt his spiritual power. Old man Tsang replied. Mental strength. That's right. Dark curses required mental power to cast. All he had to do was disrupt the King of Darkness' mental power. Naturally, this curse could not be continued. Yi Qing Luo's eyes lit up. He took out a white jade bottle from the profound phoenix ring. That bottle gave off the exact same smell as the one she used to dupe Pharaoh He. She threw the bottle into the air and waved her glower flame fan. A hurricane swept up the bottle and sent it flying towards the direction of the King of Darkness. Dong! A loud crisp sound was heard. That bottle had yet to get close to the King of Darkness. Chapter 1699. The white medicinal powder started to fall. Yi Qing Luo retreated to avoid it. The black profound yin qi wrapped the medicinal powder into a ball. Following that, a strong wind started to blow. The white powder covered the sky and earth as it flew towards her. F***K. Seeing this situation, Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but curse. What the hell, couldn't they have a good fight? While conjuring the soul-absorbing spell, she could still use the profound yin qi to counterattack. The moment one came into contact with this white medicinal powder, one's mental energy would be suppressed. Even she would not be an exception. Yi Qing Luo immediately displayed her footwork as she opened up the glower flame fan in her hands and created a whirlwind. She threw the medicinal powder towards the direction of the profound yin qi. At the same time, her figure flickered. She teleported to the side of the King of Darkness. King of Darkness's malicious eyes flashed. A sinister chill shot out from the bottom of his eyes. A burst of profound yin qi blocked Yi Qing Luo's path. Yi Qing Luo didn't bother with the profound yin qi. She moved agilely towards the King of Darkness. Her fingertips held onto another white jade medicinal bottle as she bit open the cap and poured it onto the King of Darkness. But just as the white jade medicinal bottle was about to fall, suddenly, she saw the King of Darkness raise his head. A treacherous sneer appeared on that exquisite and bewitching face. His eyes, which were filled with profound yin qi, were filled with murderous intent. Yi Qing Luo's heart trembled. She realized something. She smashed the medicinal bottle onto the King of Darkness's body. Following that, she silently chanted to teleport away. But it was too late. The corners of the King of Darkness's lips curled upwards as a sinister smile surfaced on his face. This was the moment he was waiting for. Waiting for Yi Qing Luo to fall into his trap. The King of Darkness's hand gesture changed. Yi Qing Luo only felt that her body had suddenly lost the ability to move. Following that, a tearing sensation spread from her heart to every corner of her body. She couldn't even teleport away. Enduring the pain that almost made her faint, she furrowed her brows and used her willpower to quickly move her body away. but her body seemed to be nailed to the ground. He stood perfectly straight on the spot, unable to move at all. Small vessel, no one in this world is able to escape from the soul-absorbing curse. The king of darkness, who had his face covered in powder, laughed sinisterly as he looked at Yiqing Luo. He raised his sleeve and used the burnt sleeve of his robe to wipe the powder off his face. It didn't matter if the powder fell on his body. Yiqing Luo's soul was captured by the soul-absorbing curse. Even if he wasn't able to utilize his mental energy, he could easily swallow Yiqing Luo's soul. Chapter 1700. Yiqing Luo's hair stood on end as a chill ran down her spine. That gaze made her feel extremely disgusted. But she had no chance to escape. She could only watch as the Empire of Darkness approached her. His face, which was filled with murderous intent and an evil smile, was pressed against her cheek. His slender fingers curled up slightly. Slowly, he covered her chest. Yiqing Luo's petite body suddenly stiffened. A wave of humiliation welled up in his heart. She was furious, and her eyes were burning. Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her chest. Yiqing Luo's face instantly turned pale. His sharp fingers scratched the skin on her chest. A bone-chilling chill came from his fingertips. Gradually, he delved into her body. Yiqing Luo understood. The king of darkness did not want to humiliate her body. Instead, he wanted to dig out her profound heart jade. His fingers penetrated her chest bit by bit. The feeling of her soul being torn apart, the feeling of his fingers penetrating her skin. It was so painful that Yiqing Luo's eyes turned red and her face turned pale. The king of darkness was clearly doing this on purpose. He intentionally used this slow action to torment Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo knew what he was planning and naturally wouldn't make any noise to satisfy King of Darkness's perverted pleasure. Looking at Yiqing Luo, she was in so much pain that her forehead was filled with cold sweat. His entire body was drenched in sweat. The smile in the King of Darkness' eyes became even more unbridled. Even 10,000 years ago, I had never met a woman as stubborn as you. If you didn't harm my interests, perhaps I might really fall for you. Yiqing Luo's stubbornness and her willpower. The King of Darkness had indeed been attracted. He admired Yiqing Luo's perseverance. It was a pity. She was a woman with such great talent and admirable perseverance. If I don't strangle her in the cradle, in the future, it would become an obstacle to his rule over the four realms. He would never allow any obstacles to appear by his side. Bah! Yiqing Luo spat out a mouthful of saliva as her eyes were filled with ridicule and disdain. She took a deep breath with difficulty and said with difficulty, "I feel disgusted." Every word seemed to be squeezed out from the gaps between his teeth. After saying that, she closed her eyes in pain. It was just 6 simple words, but they seemed to have exhausted all their strength. The excruciating pain he was enduring was also reaching his limit. His soul was still restlessly tearing apart. It was as if it wanted to break out of her body. The more she tried to suppress the breakthrough of her soul, the more she tried to do so. The more he thought about it, the more he felt like his body was about to explode. Yiqing Luo's pained expression had successfully pleased the King of Darkness. He laughed excitedly and increased the strength of his fingers. Yiqing Luo couldn't hold it in any longer as she cried out miserably. The King of Darkness' hand had already pierced through her chest. The ice-cold finger extended towards the location of her heart, towards the profound jade heart that was being nurtured. Yiqing Luo's delicate body trembled in pain. The pain of her soul and body intertwining with each other caused her eyes to turn red. A wave of unwillingness and resentment surged from the bottom of her heart. Boom! Just as the King of Darkness was about to touch the profound heart jade, suddenly from Yiqing Luo's body, a glaring red glow exploded. That red light was like a burning flame. The heat was so high that it seemed like it could melt everything in the world. The King of Darkness' hand was instantly retracted by the heat. Immediately following that, he quickly shifted his body and retreated out of the boundary of the red light. The moment he retreated, Yiqing Luo's body suddenly floated into mid-air. That glaring red glow encircled her entire body. Chapter 1701. Hot. The scorching burning sensation was burning her heart. Yiqing Luo only felt that she was being burned in a raging inferno. The intense heat caused her to moan uncontrollably. Her breathing was getting heavier and heavier. You lowly human from the lower realm, you can actually release the divine phoenix profound jade's energy. King of Darkness's shocked voice rang beside her ear. King of Darkness's eyes were filled with disbelief. He stared at the young lady who was wrapped in a strange flame. His gaze was fixated on her heart, which had a hole dug out. That bewitching fiery light came from her heart, which was also the profound jade heart. This was the divine phoenix profound jade heart's energy. Even if it was just 1/10,000th of its energy, that was enough to shake the heavens and earth in Nirvana realm. But Yiqing Luo was obviously a vessel which contained the divine phoenix profound jade heart. Why was she able to release the divine phoenix profound jade heart's energy? She could even make use of the divine phoenix profound jade heart to save her life. Nirvana realm actually had such an unfathomable profound cultivator. This vessel must die. And at this moment, Yiqing Luo totally didn't know how horrifying her current look was in the eyes of others. This familiar scorching feeling, she knew. That the divine phoenix profound jade heart had helped her again. Previously under King of Darkness's attack. It was the divine phoenix profound jade heart who had helped her to block that attack. And this time, the divine phoenix profound jade heart reacted again. A scorching burning sensation spread through her limbs and bones, spreading through every meridian in her body. Everywhere it went, Yiqing Luo seemed to feel the piercing pain from the scorching inferno. Lass, be careful. Just as Yiqing Luo was immersed in the scorching inferno burning her meridians, Old Man Tsang's reminder rang in her mind. Yiqing Luo suddenly opened her eyes. He saw the King of Darkness charging over with a ferocious look on his face. The profound yin qi which gathered around him was so dense that it almost enveloped his entire body. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned cold as her fingertips raised up reflexively. The glower flame fan had already drawn out numerous silver threads, entangling towards King of Darkness in all directions. She could move. Yiqing Luo's heart leapt with joy. He spread his arms wide and slowly descended to the ground from midair. Before Zhang Xian could stabilize himself, the feeling of his soul being torn apart assaulted him once more. Her face paled, and her breathing quickened. Unless the person who cast the curse dispels the curse for you, otherwise, before your soul is extracted, this curse will always exist. Old Man Tsang was deeply worried. He could feel the pain that Yiqing Luo was experiencing at this time. Yiqing Luo's body swayed slightly as she half knelt on the ground. His soul was constantly being pulled in his body, trying to break out. Ha ha ha. Little container, even if you have this heaven-defying profound jade heart, it's still useless in your hands. The King of Darkness totally disregarded Yiqing Luo's attack. He raised his hand and directly split apart the silver wires which Yiqing Luo shot over. The next moment, he faced her once again, directly bypassing the hurricane created by Yiqing Luo's devouring flame fan, pouncing towards Yiqing Luo. His 5 fingers turned into a claw as a cold glint surfaced in his eyes, as he dug towards Yiqing Luo's chest once again. The terrifying energy charged against Yiqing Luo's soul. That hand touched her chest once again. The divine phoenix profound jade heart released a scorching heat, burning King of Darkness's hand. That heat made King of Darkness's brows crease tightly. But, he didn't avoid it again. Chapter 1702. Yiqing Luo was in so much pain that her face turned pale. Her soul was constantly being torn apart, making her unable to concentrate and counterattack the King of Darkness. But the King of Darkness had no intention of giving up under the scorching heat. She could not let the King of Darkness dig away her profound jade heart. Losing her profound jade heart, she had no more willpower to lock her soul. Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly turned cold. Suddenly, she turned her hand and grabbed the hand that was probing into her heart. That hand, under the high temperature, was already burnt. Easily, Yiqing Luo's fingers locked onto his wrist, preventing him from continuing to probe further. The hole in her chest kept on oozing out blood. Yiqing Luo's energy, under the double intense pain, slowly disappeared. She was able to grab the King of Darkness's hand now. It was entirely based on her willpower. "Do you think you can stop me?" The King of Darkness's sinister eyes were filled with an extreme cold storm. Following his voice, the King of Darkness's arms suddenly exerted strength, forcefully piercing towards Yiqing Luo's heart. His hand, under the scorching heat, emitted a smell of barbecued meat. But his strength was still much stronger than Yiqing Luo, who was struggling with her soul. Yiqing Luo's bit of strength was totally unable to stop him. Yiqing Luo felt a sharp pain in her heart. His fingertip had already touched the edge of the profound jade heart. The divine phoenix profound jade heart once again released an even more scorching heat. Yiqing Luo could see a stream of energy, like water, gushing out from her profound jade heart. Ripples appeared one after another in that power. The King of Darkness's hand paused slightly. It was this pause which allowed Yiqing Luo to find a chance to break through. Her hand, which was locked onto the King of Darkness's wrist, suddenly increased the strength. The sharp fingertip, deeply embedded into his flesh. Blood started to spread out from the fingertip. She took a deep breath, grabbed the King of Darkness's hand tightly, and flung it with force. Following that, her body staggered as she retreated a few steps. Her delicate body leaned against the cold wall. She panted heavily, cold sweat seeped out from her forehead, sliding down the contours of her face. The King of Darkness stumbled a little after being flung by her. He lowered his head and looked at his palm that had been burnt into a ball of meat. A trace of hostility appeared in his eyes. This woman. How stubborn. Even now, they were still struggling on their deathbed. Did she really think that she could continue to be so lucky? The King of Darkness moved his dead finger, and his expression turned even colder. When he looked up again, a storm was brewing in his eyes. Chapter 1703. The profound jade heart had the ability to self-destruct. The higher the grade, the greater the range and power of the profound jade heart's self-destruction. The divine phoenix profound jade heart's self-destruction was enough to destroy the entire dark forces. Her soul was about to be absorbed and her heart was bleeding non-stop. Yiqing Luo wasn't sure if she could continue to hold on. She didn't want to give up. But there was no way out. Rather than letting the King of Darkness take away her profound jade heart and swallow her soul, she might as well destroy everything. Destroy herself, destroy the King of Darkness, destroy the dark forces. It was better to be a broken jade than an intact tile. If he wanted to snatch away her things, he would have to use his life to exchange. Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with killing intent. Her 5 fingers slowly tightened. An enchanting smile blossomed on her lips. Following that, she slowly closed her eyes. Yiqing Luo didn't see that after she closed her eyes, the King of Darkness had already rushed in front of her, his face filled with fear as he tried to stop her. The King of Darkness's hand was just about to touch the hand that was holding onto the profound jade heart. All of a sudden, the profound heart jade shot out an extremely intense red light. The light was completely different from the scorching heat from before. The King of Darkness's hand, under that red glow, was abruptly repelled. His pair of hands were like rotten meat, giving out a sizzling barbecue sound. The King of Darkness's face turned green, his dilated pupils were filled with terror. The current him, where was the slightest bit of his earlier coldness and complacency? The divine phoenix profound jade heart had left the vessel's body, but it could still protect the vessel. Could it be? The divine phoenix profound jade heart had completely chosen this vessel, to become its own master. This lass, what charm did she have, what ability did she have, to be able to attract the divine phoenix profound jade heart, to automatically protect her time and time again? The King of Darkness stared in horror at the profound jade heart which was emitting a demonic red glow. His heart was extremely shocked. Following that, a scene which made the King of Darkness's expression change, happened. He saw the young lady who was holding the divine phoenix profound jade heart in one hand, was enveloped by that demonic red glow. A powerful and terrifying airwave, along with a thick profound qi, encircled Yi Qing Luo's body, forming a huge whirlpool. Shortly after, that profound heart jade that was emitting a demonic red glow slowly returned to the depths of Yi Qing Luo's heart. Under the powerful whirlpool, in the incomparably dazzling red light, the young girl's body slowly floated in the air. She opened her arms wide, and her blood-stained uniform was dyed scarlet. Her fine black hair fluttered lightly on her shoulders, making her look like a fairy from the 9 heavens descending upon the world, making one feel reverence for her. The King of Darkness took a step back. He stared blankly at the girl in midair. His heart suddenly trembled. What was going on? The vessel's aura suddenly changed. What kind of feeling was that? Strange, ruthless, dangerous, a complicated feeling filled the King of Darkness' senses. Apart from the woman who sealed him 10,000 years ago, this was the second person to strike fear into his heart. No, this is not the vessel. It was impossible for a person's aura to change so quickly. The young lady in front of him didn't have the slightest hint of a human's aura. That's right. There was no human aura. That strange red light was emitted from her body. Circles after circles of red airflow coiled around her. The King of Darkness also noticed. On the young lady's wrist, a string of cherry blossom pattern appeared. That pattern flashed in extremely demonic red. Chapter 1704. You dare to hurt me. A hoarse voice came out from Yi Qing Luo's lips. Word by word, it was like the beating of a drum, falling heavily into King of Darkness's ears. As she spoke, she opened her eyes. A scarlet red light shot out from the bottom of his eyes. Like a sharp blade, it shot towards the King of Darkness's face. King of Darkness's pupils constricted as he swiftly dodged to the side. You are not that vessel. King of Darkness frowned as he stared at the young lady in front of him. The young lady's eyes were dyed red, bewitching and treacherous. She was expressionless, but her lips curled into a teasing arc. Of course I am not the vessel. I am the owner of the divine phoenix profound heart jade. As she spoke, Yi Qing Luo's petite figure suddenly swayed. The next moment, she appeared in front of King of Darkness. The young lady's fragrance assaulted his nostrils. King of Darkness no longer had the heart to waver as he hurriedly retreated. But Yi Qing Luo lifted her leg and kicked heavily on King of Darkness's abdomen. King of Darkness cried out in pain as his body flew out. King of Darkness didn't even have a chance to react. She was not Yi Qing Luo. Absolutely not Yi Qing Luo. How could Yi Qing Luo possess such powerful strength? Although this strength was not comparable to him at his peak. But she could at least exchange 3 blows with him at his peak. Don't belittle it, just 3 blows. One must know that he was the King of Darkness, the king who ruled over all living things. When he was at his peak, even in the god realm, he could summon clouds and rain with a flip of his hand. But the current him was not at his peak. He had no way to see through Yi Qing Luo's actions. What on earth was going on? However, Yi Qing Luo didn't give him any chance to think. She was expressionless and her eyes were scarlet red, like an Azura who only knew how to hunt. She only had one goal: to kill the King of Darkness. King of Darkness's body crashed heavily onto the altar. Before he could even get up, his chest suddenly felt stuffy. A foot stomped heavily on his chest. His body fell backwards once again. A mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth. Yi Qing Luo looked down at the King of Darkness, whose face was filled with astonishment as she laughed. Her smile was enchanting and enchanting. Don't you like digging out people's hearts? Why don't I dig yours and let you have some fun? There was a hint of cruel mockery in his clear voice. The minute her words landed, Yi Qing Luo had already bent over. Her fair hands entered the King of Darkness' body without any hesitation. His hand pierced through the King of Darkness's chest. Blood splattered and instantly Yi Qing Luo's hand was stained with fresh blood. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head as she raised her hand, which was stained with blood, her crimson red and flirtatious eyes fixed on her own hand. Your blood is also cold. Chapter 1705. The pain in King of Darkness's chest and the feeling of losing blood made his exquisite and cold face turn even paler. It was indeed as Yi Qing Luo had said. This wasn't his original body. Even if he lost all his blood, he wouldn't die. But his original body was damaged. His senses would hurt. He had always been high up and was used to looking down on everyone. Except for that incident 10,000 years ago. No one could make him suffer such humiliation. This young lady actually made him suffer such humiliation. How could he tolerate it? How could his pride tolerate it? King of Darkness's eyes shot out an intense battle intent. In his heart, he had the urge to kill Yi Qing Luo. He regretted that he had given up the chance to kill her because he wanted to torture her. If he knew that this vessel would gain the recognition of the divine phoenix profound heart jade, he would definitely dig away her profound heart jade at the first instance. Recalling the scene earlier when Yi Qing Luo dug out her profound heart jade and wanted to self-explode, dragging him down to hell with her. The shock in King of Darkness's heart had yet to dissipate. This kind of person absolutely couldn't be left alive. This would definitely be his biggest trouble in the future. Looking at King of Darkness's indiscernible expression, his expression could even open a dye shop. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled upwards happily as she revealed a coquettish smile. Don't be anxious, I have always been a vengeful person and I repay it very generously. Whatever you did to me earlier, I will return it to you 100 folds. As she said that, the foot which was on his stomach started to press downwards. Suddenly, her gaze swept past the position 3 inches below the King of Darkness's navel. The smile on the corners of her lips swayed and swayed, turning into an evil smile. Noticing Yi Qing Luo's expression, King of Darkness's face instantly turned black. This crazy woman actually wanted to turn him into a eunuch. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as her body was enveloped in a dazzling red glow, blurring her beautiful face. She let out a low laugh, as though she was ridiculing King of Darkness's inability to resist. As though she was ridiculing King of Darkness's red and green face. King of Darkness was infuriated by this gaze and smile. The hollow feeling in his chest made his expression extremely unsightly. He was the King of Darkness, but he was being tormented by a young girl. If this news were to spread, how would he, the King of Darkness, still have the face to rule the 4 worlds? His eyes suddenly turned cold and sinister. Under Yi Qing Luo's double attack, he made the most direct counterattack. He ignored the wound on his chest. He stretched out his arms and pinched the foot that was stepping on his abdomen. Yiqing Luo immediately reacted and lifted her leg to struggle. But the King of Darkness was boiling with rage and he couldn't care less about Yiqing Luo's resistance. Both his hands grabbed Yiqing Luo's leg tightly and exerted force. There was a click sound. The sound of bones breaking resounded in the sky. At the same time, the King of Darkness reached his hand into the gaping wound on his chest. He was actually pulling out pieces of bone from the wound. The sound of bones creaking was especially eerie in this silent and strange atmosphere. Yiqing Luo's figure spun in midair, and by the time she landed on the ground, that leg which had its bones broken could no longer land on the ground. Waves of piercing pain stimulated her senses. Her bloodshot eyes seemed to be covered with blood. She stared unblinkingly at the man in front of her who was grabbing her bloody bone. A thick profound yin qi revolved around his arm. Round after round, it merged into the bone. He opened his palm. Chapter 1706. King of Darkness gripped the bone sword in his hand tightly. The profound yin qi was still flowing. He laughed coldly as he no longer had the intention to tangle with Yiqing Luo. He raised his sword and charged towards Yiqing Luo's direction. "Little vessel, you've successfully infuriated me. To be able to see the dark divine relic, you should die in peace." His words fell and he had already charged in front of Yiqing Luo. The bone sword in his hand flashed a biting cold sword glow. Yiqing Luo's blood-red pupils surfaced a cold smile. Although one of her legs was fractured, but that didn't mean that she would be controlled by the King of Darkness. Dark divine relic. So what? Those who dared to hurt her and dig away her profound heart jade had to die. Looking at the incoming black long sword, Yiqing Luo raised her glower flame fan fearlessly as her fingertips hooked out 2 strands of silver silk and coiled towards the black long sword. Each strand of silver silk turned into a sharp blade that could cut through metal like mud. After coiling around the long sword, Yiqing Luo immediately retreated backwards. The long silver silk pulled out a long line between the two of them. The black long sword was overflowing with sword qi as the profound yin qi expanded wantonly. Under the silver silk's coiling, it gave off a buzzing sound. The taut silver silk also started to tremble. A tyrannical profound yin qi followed the black long sword's silver silk and started to spread. Momentarily, the 2 taut silver silk were covered with a thick black qi. It flew speedily towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly as her slender fingers flicked. Those 2 strands of silver silk instantly retracted. The moment it separated from the black long sword, the profound yin qi suddenly dispersed. But the moment her silver silk retracted, a sinister smile flashed past King of Darkness's eyes. He raised the black long sword in his hand as his imposing manner was like a rainbow as he waved it out. The chilly sword qi carried the profound heart qi, like a poisonous snake's tongue, sweeping everything in front of it. What kind of power was this? She had no way to detect it. That sword qi was too ostentatious and too majestic. Yiqing Luo's figure stretched out as she floated in midair. That huge wound on her chest started to emit balls of dazzling red light. Yiqing Luo's pair of eyes gazed at the surroundings as the red glow turned even more devilish and treacherous. A powerful profound energy erupted from her body. It intertwined with the sword glow which was surrounded by mysterious yin energy. His blood-stained robe fluttered in the strong wind. Her fine black hair danced wildly on her shoulders. The huge wound on his chest was surging with a majestic and vast power. She would not allow the King of Darkness to retaliate. She wanted to dominate this battle. Looking at the oncoming sword radiance, Yiqing Luo suddenly shut her eyes. At this moment, the palm of his hand was constantly transforming into a mirage. Under her movements, the glowing flame fan danced quickly. Immediately following that, Yi-Ching Luo's movements paused. The devouring flame fan unfolded between her hands. Following Yi-Ching Luo's palm wind, the gourd flame fan immediately turned into a spinning top and flew towards the sword light. When the glowing flame fan and the sword light collided, the air around them vibrated with waves of qi that rippled out in all directions. The two forces were equally matched. King of Darkness's heart trembled as his eyes were filled with disbelief. His dark bone sword, actually wasn't able to break through this vessel's defense. How could this be possible? This container actually withstood his attack. No way. He couldn't waste any more time with the vessel. There was too much blood seeping out from his chest. He forcefully pulled out the bone sword. This body couldn't hold on for much longer. He had to end this battle quickly. Chapter 1707. Go and die. King of Darkness's cruel voice rang out. He faced the two waves of profound qi as he brandished the dark bone sword and stabbed towards Yi-Ching Luo. The collision of profound qi caused King of Darkness's robe to be shredded into pieces. Traces of blood seeped out from the densely packed scars on his body. He still didn't care. Bearing with the backlash from the collision of profound qi, the long sword was already charging towards Yi-Ching Luo. Yi-Ching Luo had not expected King of Darkness to use such a ruthless method. There was no way for her to retreat. That black long sword had already pierced towards her head in the next instance. Just at this critical moment. Suddenly, a hurricane with raging flames knocked the long sword's trajectory away. The long sword pierced through thin air. King of Darkness didn't even have time to react. He only felt as if his waist had been hit hard by something. Instantly, his body flew backwards like an arrow that had left the bow. In mid-air, blood splattered everywhere. Following a miserable shriek, King of Darkness fell onto the ground. The bone sword in his hand also fell onto the ground, giving off a crisp sound of impact. What was this? What was it that stopped his attack just now? King of Darkness forcefully supported his injured body as he flipped himself up and stared angrily in front of him. This stare made him take a step back in shock as he sucked in a mouthful of cold air. In front of him was the young lady who should have died under his bone sword. At this moment, she was like a bloodthirsty azura as she floated in midair. Her blood-red eyes were filled with a biting cold and eerie aura. Her entire body was emitting a raging airflow. A huge whirlpool revolved around her feet. It was emitting a thick, vicious, bloodthirsty, and austere aura. On her right was a noble and elegant vermilion bird with resplendent phoenix feathers as it stood proudly. On her left was a majestic white tiger whose fur was burnt but it still couldn't conceal its king of beasts' might. Vermilion bird, white tiger, two sacred beasts. Earlier, that raging hurricane which deflected his long sword was the vermilion bird's attack. The force which sent him flying earlier was the white tiger. No. Something was wrong. King of Darkness stared at the vermilion bird as his voice was hoarse and deep. Vermilion bird. Are you going to betray the underground forces? He wanted to use the dark spell to control the vermilion bird's mind again. But earlier when he was executing the soul-absorbing incantation, he was smashed on the face by Yi-Ching Luo's medicinal powder. He couldn't gather his spiritual energy at all. Bah! You bad guy! I'm a supreme holy beast. How could I possibly be in cahoots with the dark forces? You, a lowly human, want to use a secret technique to control this holy beast. How dare you question this sacred beast?
Do you believe that this sacred beast will send you to the heavens in minutes? Qi Yen stared at the blood-red beast eyes and spread his wings angrily. He wished he could give him a wing directly and let him die as far as he could. The King of Darkness's face turned ashen. You used the ancient dark secret technique to control Qi Yan's mind, and deliberately made Qi Yan sign a soul contract with me. You wanted Qi Yan to use the raging flames to pollute my profound jade heart, pollute my soul, so that I could be completely used by your dark forces. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards as she smiled lightly. Then, she lifted her long and narrow eyes and said with a faint smile, "Am I right?" The King of Darkness fell silent. This was a tacit agreement. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laugh lightly. In order to control her soul, her profound jade heart, the dark forces could even give up one of the 4 sacred beasts, the vermilion bird. That was rather strenuous. But not only did they give up the vermilion bird, they even pushed the vermilion bird into her hands.
Chapter 1708. King of Darkness looked at the young lady who was smiling sweetly in front of him in shock. She was Yi Qing Luo. She was really Yi Qing Luo. But why was she able to become so powerful in that instance? The power of the divine phoenix profound heart jade was also constantly increasing. King of Darkness, obediently return to the sacred region seal and accept the eternal seal. Yi Qing Luo glanced coldly at the shocked King of Darkness. With a leap, she leapt onto Chi-Chi's back. With a wave of her hand, a killing aura suddenly exploded in the surroundings. Go! South Waves Continent, Valley Wind City's headquarters courtyard. The entire courtyard was filled with people as students from various academies surged in. But everything around him was deathly silent. Everyone's emotions had sunk to the bottom. No one opened their mouth to break the strange atmosphere. Especially the skyward first house, which was the quietest. Dean Xian stood at the entrance of the courtyard with his forehead full of sweat as he looked at the rows of elders dressed in white robes standing in front of him. This was the Blazing Flame Nest special training. There were 1,500 over students from various academies. But there were only 1,200 over students who returned. But this number, to the various academies' students, was already a miracle. If it wasn't for Yi Qing Luo, none of them would be able to return. All of them would die in the Blazing Flame Nest. This was the least death that Yi Qing Luo had exchanged for with her own life. The students had returned safely and to the various academies, large families and powerhouses. It was a joyous matter. Some were happy while others were worried. Dean Xian was feeling apprehensive at this moment. If it wasn't for his strong willpower, his legs would probably have turned into jelly. He roughly understood what had happened in the Blazing Flame Nest from the various academy students. He was extremely shocked that Yi Qing Luo was able to destroy the Dark Side's plan, which had been going on for close to 2 months. The spirit assimilation array was destroyed. The dark forces were all massacred. Even Wolf Saint Law and Pharaoh he were severely injured by Yi Qing Luo. What kind of pervert was she? Luckily the dark forces had left a way out. Such a powerful pervert, if they could control her and make her into the dark forces' chess piece, it would definitely make up for the failure of this mission. Dean Xian kept reminding himself in this way. But, however, he was still terrified. Would the dark world push all the blame to him and make him the scapegoat if the mission failed? Just at this time, Long Yunzhan, Yan Xiaoyi and Qiao Jin walked into the courtyard, their bodies filled with exhaustion and worry. As soon as the crowd saw the 3 of them, they immediately went forward to welcome them. The president of the general hospital asked eagerly, "How is it?"
"Is there any news about Yi Qing Luo?" The 3 of them were silent. Everyone's face darkened. Obviously, they didn't get any information. The Heavenly Dean also walked forward quickly. "Is there still no news? Weren't the members of the Dark Forces subdued by the disciples of the Imperial Palace? Also, aren't Si Qianshan and Su Xiaoyan imprisoned in the dungeon? Can't we get some information from them?" The heavenly dean was worried that the people from the dark forces would sell him out, which was why he was so anxious. But in other people's eyes, they all thought that he was worried for Yi-Ching Luo.
Chapter 1709. Although that was the case. But everyone knew that Yi-Ching Luo's chances were slim. After all, she had ruined the dark forces' plan. Killed so many people from the dark forces. Now she was controlled by the dark forces. How could the dark forces let her off? Don't worry too much, that lass is not someone to be trifled with. Zhou Mo slowly walked into the crowd. His slanted eyes were fixed on the worried face of the girl in the crowd. His long arm stretched out and brought the young lady into his arms. His broad palm covered the back of the young lady's head and pressed her head onto his chest. His action caused the crowd to look over in astonishment. Zhou Mo was one of the instructors that Ghost Marshal had brought along. He actually hugged a student. That student seemed to be a devil-class student. Little wildcat, that bitter face, don't you believe in your sister's ability? Zhou Mo didn't care about the surrounding students' gazes as he comforted the person in his arms in a gentle voice. Kitty Lee pursed her lips as all she could think about was Yi-Ching Luo. Hence towards Zhou Mo's action, she didn't resist. Leaning on his chest, Kitty Lee's spirit eyes, which were like the vast starry sky, was filled with a layer of mist. Her ears were filled with his heartbeat. It made her feel a sense of security. Amen. I believe in my sister's ability. She opened her mouth and her voice was extremely soft and slow, revealing a suppressed sobbing tone. Zhou Mo tightened his arms as he gently kissed her hair. It said that a scourge lives for 1,000 years. That scourge of hers, even the heavens don't dare to accept it. Kitty Lee's brows were still furrowed. Believing in Yi-Ching Luo's ability was one thing. But not worrying was another thing. Devil class's students were all silent. Director sighed softly, we will take full responsibility for the Blazing Flame Nest's matter. No matter what, we will try our best to rescue our hero student Yi-Ching Luo. Director took a look at the elder beside him. The elder immediately took a step forward. We have already spread the news of the Dark Forces conspiracy to the other continents. All the cultivators in the various continents will pay attention to the Dark Forces movements. When the other academies' directors and elders heard that, they all stood out to express their stance. Yes. The Dark Forces are acting so wantonly, what do they take our Nirvana realm for? This time, all of us from the 4 continents will unite and destroy the Dark Forces. This time, the Dark Forces were trying to absorb the souls of all the students. In other words, he had offended forces from all over the world. At that moment, the halls were filled with the cheers of the students from the various academies. The heavenly dean looked at everyone's menacing aura and cold sweat oozed out of his forehead. He had never expected that such a tight operation would fail. Moreover, the dark forces had become the common target of all the forces on the 4 continents. Once the dark forces lost their power. His position as the dean, I'm afraid I won't be able to keep it. As for the students of the devil class, they kept silent and the expressions on their faces were extremely solemn. Right at that moment, a voice suddenly sounded from the horizon. Following that, something fell from the sky like a rolling wave. Bang! A black obsidian beast landed in front of everyone. No one had time to react. A white figure flipped down from the top of the black owl beast. Chapter 1710. The boorish roar shocked everyone present. For a moment, the noisy dormitory once again became incomparably silent. Everyone stared blankly at the crazy old man who appeared out of nowhere. The white figure pounced onto the heavenly dean's body. He grabbed the dean's collar with one hand and clenched his fist with the other, his face full of rage. How the F***ck did you become the dean? I let you be the dean. I let you be. A punch landed heavily on the heavenly dean's face. The dean cried out in pain, struggling to free the crazy old man's hand. But the more he struggled, the strength of the crazy old man's grip became tighter. In the end, he simply grabbed the heavenly dean's neck and pressed him to the ground. There was no scruple of his dignity as the dean. The dean's face was livid. His face was stuck to the ground, and his mouth was full of sand. The deans of the surrounding academies were standing at the side and gesticulating. The dean couldn't bear it anymore, gritting his teeth. "Guiyu. Are you crazy? This is the school building, how dare you act so presumptuously?" He clasped the crazy old man's arm with his backhand. Guiyu spat, "I don't care where you are, you killed my Luo girl, I want you to be buried with her. Are you thinking of?" The dean was flustered and exasperated. "Want to kick me out of the school? Don't you *king forget who got you the position of dean?" Guiyu snorted disdainfully. The dean trembled with anger. His strength was far from Guiyu's. There was no way he could break free from Guiyu's grip. "Enough. Guiyu, let him go." A calm voice came from behind Guiyu. This voice sounded extremely familiar. Guiyu's body stiffened, frowning as he looked towards the direction of the voice. He saw a young man in black, looking at him coldly. Guiyu blinked his eyes, looking past the young man in black, looking for something. "Stop looking, it's me." That familiar voice came from the young man in black. Guiyu was slightly startled. Suddenly, he jumped up from the ground and pounced on the young man. F***ck, F***ck, F***ck. You're too F***king shameless. He's just an old man, but he actually made himself so handsome. The black-clothed youth's face was gloomy as he glanced at him coldly. Old man Guiyu's agitated emotions gradually calmed down. The heavenly dean got up from the ground and wiped the sand off his face in embarrassment. Yiqing Luo's move in the blazing flame nest. As a result, he was highly respected and admired by the deans of the various academies. But now that old man Guiyu had messed around. In the next few years, he, the Heavenly Academy's dean, would be a joke in the mouths of other academies. His eyes were filled with ruthlessness and resentment. When he glared at Guiyu fiercely, he discovered that Guiyu had obediently shut his mouth under Guiyu's gaze. He was astonished. One had to know that old man Guiyu's temperament was unpredictable and he did things according to his whims. He wouldn't care about anyone or any scene. Do whatever you want. But, he was actually afraid of the ghost martial artist. Guiyu and Guiyu knew each other. "What are you doing in the southern continent?" Guiyu frowned, looking at Guiyu who was dressed in a messy and crazy outfit. He was somewhat displeased. Guiyu scratched his messy hair like withered grass. "Something happened to the Luo girl, I'm here to save her." "I don't need you," Guiyu said faintly. "Go back to your western continent." Chapter 17:11. Guiyu squinted his eyes and fixed his gaze on Guiyu for a long time. Without saying anything more, he turned around and walked out of the school dormitory. Guiyu immediately followed Guiyu's footsteps. Hey, I haven't asked you, what are you doing in South Continent?" Wait a minute. Guiyu seemed to have thought of something as he quickened his footsteps. "Your current identity seems to be a martial arts fanatic, giving special training to various academy students. Don't tell me you've lost my last Luo?" Guiyu's footsteps halted but he didn't turn back. But his actions indicated everything. Guiyu cried out loudly as he pounced onto Guiyu. You're present and you actually allowed the dark forces to take my last Luo away. Do you know that on her?" Before he could finish his words, Guo Yu's mouth was sealed by Guo Wu's hand. Their voices were getting further and further away. The school dormitory was in dead silence once again. The students from various academies looked at each other in dismay. Looking at Guo Yu and Guo Wu who were already far away, then looking at the ashen-faced and disheveled Principal Xian. In the end, they chose to appease everyone one by one and return to their own courtyard to rest. In just a short moment, the entire heaven room was left with only the students from the devil class, still standing at their original spots. As though they couldn't wait for Yiqing Luo's news. They didn't have the mood to go back to rest. After half a jaw stick of silence, Long Yunzhan slowly walked towards the students from devil class. Yan Xiaoyi and Qiao Jin followed closely behind. Upon entering the sky dormitory, Kitty Li broke free from Zhou Mo's embrace and quickly ran to Long Yunzhan's side. "Brother Long, Kitty Li knows you can find my sister, you. Bring Kitty Li to find my sister all right." Her eyes were filled with tears. Her little hands clutched Long Yunzhan's sleeve tightly. She believed in Yiqing Luo's ability. But she was still very worried about Yiqing Luo. If she was by Yiqing Luo's side, she would definitely be able to help her. Long Yunzhan lowered his eyes and looked at the tearful beauty in front of him. His azure blue eyes flickered slightly. He wasn't surprised that Kitty Li had seen through his identity. Kitty Li was the princess of the cat clan and had the sensitivity of a cat beast. She could naturally smell and sense that he wasn't a real human. He could indeed find Yiqing Luo. However, Long Yunzhan narrowed his eyes and slowly brushed Kitty Li's hand away. "She will be back soon." At this time, the devil class students had already entered the sky room 1. When Yan Xiaoyi heard Long Yunzhan's words, she couldn't hold it in any longer. She quickly rushed forward. "Class monitor, do you know something?" Yan Xiaoyi had this feeling ever since returning from the flame lair. Thinking back to when they discovered Yiqing Luo being controlled by Tao Wu in the blazing flame nest, Long Yunzhan's action of calling devil classes students to leave Yiqing Luo. Moreover, after Yiqing Luo was taken away by the dark forces, even the overlord didn't manage to catch her. He still calmly called the students back to their dorms. The more she thought about it, the stranger it was. It wasn't that she didn't know how much Long Yunzhan cared about Yiqing Luo. There was no way Long Yunzhan would abandon Yiqing Luo and lead the students back. When everyone heard Yan Xiaoyi's question, their footsteps instantly stopped. All of them looked at Long Yunzhan with anxious and worried eyes. Long Yunzhan looked calm. His azure blue eyes swept across the brothers in front of him. "I only know that Qing Luo is not controlled by the dark forces." Chapter 17:12. Not controlled by the dark forces. Devil classes students opened their eyes wide as they looked at Long Yunzhan. Boss Qing Luo intentionally pretended that she was being controlled. Long Yunzhan replied calmly. The hearts of the devil classes students could finally be at ease. However, a new wave of worry surged into his heart. If those people from the dark forces found out that Boss Qing Luo was pretending, would they make a move on her? Boss Qing Luo is alone in the dark forces. If anything were to happen, what should we do? At this moment, we should stay by Boss Qing Luo's side. Yiqing Luo pretended to be obsessed with lust and then took the initiative to be brought away by the dark forces. It must have been to attract the attention of the dark forces so that they would focus their attacks on her. The dark forces were so terrifying. Yiqing Luo was alone. Was it really safe? The students of devil class were deeply worried. Looking at the students discussing animatedly, Long Yunzhan's expression could no longer remain calm. Qiao Jin opened his mouth in time. The Overlord and the Imperial Palace's disciples have already rushed towards the dark forces and Qing Luo will be brought back safely very soon. Everyone looked at Qiao Jin. Everyone, go back to your rooms and wait for news. At the very least, wash away the smell of blood on your body. Qiao Jin pushed the students around and said with a face full of disgust. Devil classes students hesitated in their steps. Yiqing Luo's life or death was still unknown, so how would they have the mood to return to their rooms to bathe? Qing Luo will never do anything that she's not confident in. There's also the overlord who's going to take action, so what are you worried about? Qiao Jin's tone was relaxed. After much persuasion, he finally managed to chase the students of devil class back to their rooms. Qiao Jin wiped the sweat off his forehead as he turned his head towards Long Yunzhan. The overlord will definitely be able to bring Qing Luo back, so even if you rush over, there's no use at all. After pausing for a moment, his gaze fell onto Tong Ziqing, who was walking a few steps away, then looking back worriedly. He sighed softly. Cherish the people in front of you. Don't let yourself regret it. His words caused Long Yunzhan's expression to change slightly. With his perception, he could naturally sense Tong Ziqing's gaze on him. He thought of the scar on Tong Ziqing's back. He clenched his fists. When he raised his eyes again, his face had already regained its calm and indifference. Her azure eyes were as calm as a still lake. She looked at Qiao Jin quietly. You too. With that, Long Yunzhan turned around and returned to his room. In the courtyard of Resident Sky, only Qiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi were left. Long Yunzhan's words made Qiao Jin's heart tremble slightly. His gaze instinctively looked towards Yan Xiaoyi. Coincidentally, he met Yan Xiaoyi's gaze. A ripple that Qiao Jin couldn't understand faintly rippled in her beautiful eyes. In the depths of his eyes, there seemed to be great sorrow and endurance. And at the moment when their eyes met, Yan Xiaoyi hurriedly avoided eye contact and turned to head out of the courtyard. I will also return to my room first. Her footsteps were slightly flustered. He looked at her back as she left. An indescribable panic surged up in Qiao Jin's heart. Thinking of the 3 words that Long Yunzhan said just now, his heart suddenly trembled violently. Almost subconsciously, he had already taken quick steps forward as he grabbed Yan Xiaoyi's wrist. Xiaoyi, don't leave first. Yan Xiaoyi's petite body trembled as her body stiffened slightly as she stopped in her tracks. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.